The small town of Riverton had always prided itself on its tight-knit community, but behind the well-kept streets and friendly faces was a deep undercurrent of corruption. For Aaliyah Williams, a driven and sharp criminal defense lawyer, the law was more than just a career, it was her life's purpose. She had dedicated herself to bringing justice to those who couldn't afford it, but never did she imagine that the very system she trusted would betray her and her family. The downfall began on a quiet Tuesday evening when Aaliyah's younger brother, Jamal, a bright college student, was arrested under suspicious circumstances. The charges were outrageous: assaulting an officer during a protest that was initially peaceful. What seemed like a minor case of civil unrest escalated quickly when Jamal was placed in a holding cell with a known criminal, leaving Aaliyah to question everything. Who was behind this, and why? The answer came in the form of Detective Lydia Reynolds, a respected officer known for her by-the-book approach. But something didn't sit right. As Aaliyah began to investigate, she uncovered a connection between Reynolds and the town's corrupt mayor, Richard Hale, a powerful politician who had a hand in nearly every shady deal in Riverton. This was no simple arrest. Jamal was being framed and Detective Reynolds was in on it. Aaliyah knew she couldn't trust anyone, especially the very police force that was supposed to protect her family. As she dug deeper, she found an unsettling truth. Reynolds had been involved in laundering money for the mayor and helping orchestrate illegal land deals that destroyed innocent lives. Jamal wasn't just a random victim. He had been targeted because he had uncovered evidence linking Reynolds to an illegal construction scheme that was threatening to destroy the homes of low-income families. Flashback to the day of Jamal's arrest. Aaliyah's phone rang as she was preparing for a high-profile case. The name on the screen was Jamal's, but the voice on the other end wasn't his. It was a stranger, a fellow inmate. "Aaliyah, you need to get here fast. They're doing something to Jamal. I heard them talk about setting him up." Aaliyah's heart sank. She rushed to the station, but by the time she arrived, her brother was already behind bars, and the officers wouldn't give her any answers. What she didn't know was that Detective Reynolds had orchestrated the entire situation, ensuring that Jamal's arrest would lead to his brutal treatment in jail. The twist, a web of deceit. The deeper Aaliyah went into her investigation, the darker the truth became. Detective Reynolds was involved in more than just land deals and money laundering. She was tied to a human trafficking ring that had infiltrated the town's most prestigious families, including the mayor's office. The construction projects weren't just designed to gentrify the town, they were a front for something much more sinister. Aaliyah discovered that the mayor and his inner circle had been trafficking vulnerable women for years, using their construction projects to funnel money and hide their illegal activities. Jamal's only crime was being too close to the truth. He had been documenting the connection between Reynolds and the mayor's underground network and was preparing to expose it. But the corrupt system was too powerful, and now Aaliyah found herself fighting a war against both the police and politicians, alone. A dangerous decision. Going public? With her back against the wall and her brother's life hanging in the balance, Aaliyah knew she couldn't stay silent. She gathered every shred of evidence she had, every conversation, every document, everything that could bring down the corrupt empire that had controlled Riverton for so long. But going public meant risking her life. The mayor and Reynolds wouldn't let her expose the truth without a fight. The system was built to protect them, and Aaliyah was just one woman standing against it all. She knew she had to act fast. As she was preparing to release the evidence to the press, Aaliyah was ambushed at her office by two of the mayor's hired thugs. They threatened her, demanding she back off, but Aaliyah wasn't afraid. "If you think I'll stop now, you've got another thing coming," Aaliyah said, her voice steady even as her heart raced. "This isn't over, not until I expose every last one of you." The shocking betrayal, trusting the wrong person. Just when it seemed like Aaliyah's fight couldn't get any harder, she received an unexpected visit. Her former colleague, David Brooks, a reporter she had worked with on several high-profile cases. He told her he had information that could help, but Aaliyah was wary. Could she trust him? David had been embedded in the mayor's office for months, working undercover to expose the corruption. But as Aaliyah later learned, David had been compromised. He had been blackmailed by the mayor's people and was feeding them false information to protect his own interests. In a shocking twist, Aaliyah discovered that David was behind a major leak that had almost led to the destruction of her investigation. Her trust had been betrayed once again, but this time she wouldn't let it stop her. With her back against the wall and the truth now on the brink of being exposed, Aaliyah was ready for one final showdown. She reached out to a team of trusted allies, a group of reporters, activists, and whistleblowers who had been working in the shadows to expose the corruption in Riverton. Together, they launched a full-scale media campaign, releasing the damning evidence to the public. The city erupted as the truth about Detective Reynolds, Mayor Hale, and the corrupt police force was revealed for all to see. Aaliyah's brother was freed, and the entire town turned against the very people who had tried to silence them. But the fight was far from over. With the corrupt system beginning to crumble, Aaliyah knew the battle wasn't won just yet. There would be more enemies to face, more lies to uncover. But for the first time in a long time, Aaliyah had hope. The corrupt powers of Riverton were finally being exposed, and justice was within reach. As Aaliyah basked in the early victory of seeing the mayor arrested and Detective Reynolds locked behind bars, a new danger quietly emerged. The system she had fought so hard to dismantle didn't simply fall with the arrest of its leaders. It was more like an iceberg. What was visible above the surface was only a fraction of what lurked beneath. The media buzz was intense. Aaliyah had become a hero overnight. But as the case gained national attention, she started receiving strange phone calls that were more cryptic than threatening, more haunting than informative. It was as if someone wanted to warn her, yet refused to be known. Then it happened. One night, Aaliyah's apartment was broken into, but nothing was stolen. No evidence was tampered with. It was as if the intruder had only come to deliver a message that Aaliyah wouldn't understand until it was too late. In the center of her kitchen table, neatly arranged, was an envelope with a single piece of paper inside. It read, "You have no idea who you've really brought down." The weight of those words settled in like a stone, and Aaliyah's stomach tightened. She couldn't shake the feeling that the pieces of this puzzle were far from finished. The mayor was just the tip of the iceberg. Someone higher up in the food chain was pulling strings, and they were now aware of her. The next few days were a blur as Aaliyah tried to make sense of the cryptic message. The phone calls intensified, and so did her paranoia. She couldn't trust anyone, her allies, her team, even the press. It wasn't until she connected with Liam Anderson, an investigative journalist who had covered corruption in law enforcement for years, that the truth began to unravel in a terrifying direction. Liam had access to intel that Aaliyah could never have dreamed of, a shadow organization that had been running Riverton from behind the scenes. It wasn't just the mayor, or Reynolds, or even the corrupt police department. This organization was far bigger, an untraceable underground network that extended across state lines, and possibly even the entire country. And it wasn't just about money, drugs, or land deals. This organization was involved in global human trafficking, underground arms deals, and secretive operations designed to manipulate entire governments. The mayor's dirty dealings had been a small fraction of the power at play here. The truth was far darker than Aaliyah could have imagined. With this new information in hand, Aaliyah knew she had to act fast. But who could she trust? Everyone she'd relied on had ties to the very corruption she sought to expose. It was then that Aaliyah made an even more chilling discovery. David Brooks, the reporter who had been the first to help her, had deeper connections than he had let on. Through some digging, Aaliyah uncovered David's involvement with a powerful law firm that had represented none other than Liam Anderson, a journalist who seemed to know more about the underground organization than he let on. In a spine-chilling twist, Aaliyah realized that David was never really a good guy in this story. He had been planted within her circle to feed misinformation and steer her investigation away from the true criminals. He had been working for the same underground organization that controlled Riverton. David had been manipulating her the entire time. With no one left to trust and nowhere safe to turn, Aaliyah made a decision: she would expose it all, even if it meant putting herself directly in the line of fire. But the stakes had never been higher. She had already come face to face with the deepest levels of corruption in Riverton, and now it was time to confront the true masterminds behind it all. But she knew this wasn't going to be an easy win. The organization had eyes everywhere, and if they knew she was closing in, they would stop at nothing to eliminate her. Aaliyah had been fighting for justice, but now she was fighting for her life. Her next move would either expose the entire network or get her killed. What's more dangerous than taking down corrupt leaders? Taking down an organization that operates in the shadows, controlling everything from government to law enforcement. Can Aaliyah expose the hidden masterminds behind Riverton's corruption before it's too late? Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications to find out what happens next in Aaliyah's fight for justice, and whether she can take down a system bigger than she ever imagined.